Hey guys, Stephanie with you today for LDRS Creative and another edition of our 10 cards 1 kit. Today I'm going to be presenting you the brand new November release. It is absolutely beautiful, gorgeous, and it is celebrating friendship and love because we're obviously on cloud number 9. So we're going to have two new mini ink sets. One of them is called the Cunty Fair and the other one is called Summer Shore. We also have a brand new image for those of you who love polka doodles. It's called Hanging Out and it's just adorable. You have all those little critters. Now I'm especially excited to share with you those brand new flowers in the LDRS Creative Store. Right now I'm showing you on screen the Beautiful Blooms stem set. It has tons of sentiments, it has that beautiful bouquet, and you also have all those little parts that you can add to color in with your favorite coloring medium. But if you're not entirely into coloring, then we also have something for you that is called the Love and Bloom stamp set. It is gorgeous, and what's fun is that you can do solid stamping and layering stamping with it. I'm going to show you later on how to use those techniques, but it's just fabulous. Also, we're going to have a brand new set from Creative Creations, one of my favorite collections. It's called Cloud Number 9, so please excuse the pun. And it has that beautiful young lady that is sitting on cloud number 9, obviously. You have all those little elements. You have a banner, you have a little hot air balloon, you have a bouquet of balloons, you have a border of clouds, and you also have gorgeous sentiments. One of them says, "You light up my life," then you have my little heart on a string, etc. And what's cool is that the size of it is just so big that it fits a card without having to add anything else. So it's a very nice stamp set to have in your collection. Next, we're having some dies. So we're having 4 new dies. The two that I'm going to show you are the Eyelet lace rectangle set, and also one of the Build-A-Card series has the Garden Escape. You do know the Build-A-Card series, you love it, I know you do, because it has all the elements to, wait a minute, build a card. So I'm going to show you at least one project using it, and also not shown but that will be available in store. You're going to be able to use its 2 new dies that are called Love Letter Lace Envelope Die Set and Fairy Fantasy Lace Envelope Die Set. So these 2 dies are beautiful to decorate envelopes and to add little elements to your card making. And we're also re-releasing the Sincerely Used 6x6 paper pack because we know that you love it so much. And guess what? We're having it at a very discounted price. So if you look in store, you're going to see that it's not only available, but it's going to be available at a majorly price. So that's awesome. And what I like about those paperbacks is that not only you have it for 6x6, but also you have tons of patterns that you're going to be using for your card project. Now let's move on to our first project. I'm using the beautiful bouquet from one of the flower sets, and I'm simply going to color it. But before that, I wanted to show you a technique on how to create more with your stamp set. So I'm using a mask made of the same bouquet, and I'm stamping it twice so that when I remove the mask, I'm going to be able to have a larger image that is not part of my stamp set. So right now on screen, you're seeing the same bouquet stamped twice, and since the mask is still there, I'm also adding some elements from the stamp set. These are elements that are really adding value to your set because you can create single elements, you can go with a little touch, or you can create a huge pattern that is entirely special to your needs. So I'm creating however I want it, and I'm very happy with the result. And once that is done, I'm going to be removing the mask and then color it with my alcohol markers. Now you don't need to do anything like me, or you can definitely do watercoloring, you can do pencil coloring, because we've stamped our image with our famous Raven hybrid ink, which is good with all your coloring mediums. So while I'm speeding up the process here, because I don't want to be talking about coloring too much, I wanted to take time to tell you about that discount code that you guys love so much when we have new releases. So the new release code right now is a 15% off. It's called LOVE15, so LOVE15, and you can use it on anything in the store. So it's discounted prices, bundles, whatever you like, you can use that code, but only until December 2nd. So make sure that you're going to use that code, and you can also have it in the link below so that you don't have to worry about noting it down. So now I'm speeding it up just for the little details. I'm adding a little shadow, a little, well, you could say aqua or turquoise shadow all around it. And this is going to basically be my project. I'm simply going to add a sentiment that I'll stamp with Raven Hybrid ink on a short piece of white cardstock. And once I cut it, once I trim it down, I'm going to add it with foam tape to my A2 card base, and that will be all. So this is a super fun project if you're into coloring, or you could also emboss it, whatever you like. Now, onto our second project. Our second project is once again using those beautiful flowers, because you know it, I'm a flower girl, and I love switching from time to time from coloring to images. But then, if you're not into coloring, this project is for you, because we're simply going to stamp the images, fussy cut them, meaning that with sharp scissors, we're going to leave a little white border all around them, and simply use the silhouettes as it. Now, onto a craft card base, you could simply place all the flowers in an oval kind of shape, and that would be your project. No need to add anything. But because we have that 6x6 Sincerely Yours paper pack, I'm going to add a background and then pop all my little flowers with foam dots, and they're going to be framing that beautiful pattern paper, and then I'll have a sentiment that is going to be right in the center. So once again, I was telling you that the patterns from the Sincerely Used paper pack are really cool, because they don't need to be Valentine's Day or any kind of specific holiday. You can use them all year round. Now, moving onto our third project, we're going to be using that On Cloud number 9 stem set. So once again, I'm doing some coloring, so I basically stamped the gall with some Raven Hybrid ink onto my coloring paper, and I colored it with my favorite medium, which is alcohol markers, but you can go along and do whatever you like. Also, we're going to fussy cutter, but that's going to be another step. Now, the technique here that I wanted to show you is using that gorgeous cloud line that is part of the stamp set. So I decided to create a rainbow card using both the County Fair and the Summer Shore ink pads sets that we have in this release, and I'm simply using a stamping tool, and you could also be using an acrylic block no matter what, and I'm going to repeatedly stamp that same border of clouds with different inks. So, of course, I'm cleaning in between shots because I don't want my ink pads to be contaminated, but I love the feel of this rainbow sky. So it's going to be beautiful, and because we want to frame it nicely, I'm going to be using an A2 craft card base. I'm simply going to add our little gall that was fussy cut with some foam tape, and that's going to be like if that gall is in the sky and we're looking at her. How cute is that? Plus we have that sentiment from the set that is saying, I'm on cloud number 9 because of you. How awesome. So I'm simply stamped it with the Raven Hybrid ink onto some leftover craft paper, and I'm going to place it in the bottom right corner of my card, and that's another easy peasy project done. Now, onto our next project. I'm showing you that I'm going to be using all the inks we've had in this release, and I'm simply going to be using all the accessories of that On Cloud number 9 stamp set. So what's cool with those large stamp sets is that not only you have that main image, but you can also create something based on all the accessories without spending so much time as in coloring. So what I'm showing you is that every accessory is going to be colored, well, not colored, but inked. It's going to be inked with a different color of the ink pads, and that's going to create, once again, a rainbow card, but only using accessories and our main sentiment, which is you're lifting my little heart, you're on a screen. Honestly, my God, this is so difficult this morning. So you have my heart on a little string. Now, because I wanted to add a little finishing touch, I'm also showing you how you can easily blend all your card with those mini ink cubes. They're so juicy. That's one of their particularity, that you can definitely ink around with a sponge applicator and it's going to blend beautifully. Plus, that's it. We have a one layer card that is finished, and you've got my heart, my little heart on a string, and I have this sentiment right. But I'm sure I'm not the only one that has sometimes trouble reading a sentiment. Now, onto our next project. Again, I'm using those blooms, but the blooms that I'm showing you are not going to be colored. I love using embossing techniques, and this is what we're going to be doing with that project. So I'm simply placing different elements of the flower set on my acrylic block, and then I'm stamping it with the Watermark ink pad from LDRS, obviously, and I'm stamping at various positions, at various spots, on a navy cardstock that was already trimmed to go on an A2 card base, and then I'm adding some white embossing powder that I'm going to further on each set with my heat gun. So I'm going to speed up the process because you don't need to see me stamping and embossing the entire panel, but this is what we've done. Basically, I have all my elements on the same stamping block, and I'm going around the entire panel so that it's going to be fully embossed. And once that will be done, we're going to trim it down. And what I'm showing you is not only going to make one card, but two cards. So we're going to have a full panel, and once that is done, we're going to simply cut it into three parts that will not be equal. Why is that? Well, because I want to have a spot open on my card base. So I'm using an A2 craft card base, and I'm going to directly cover everything with two parts of the embossed panel, and in the leftover part, so the one where we see that craft card base, I'm going to stamp a sentiment in black that says "Bloom, smile, you're beautiful," and that's going to be a complete project. Now remember that third part that we embossed, right? Well, we're going to do a very quick and easy project because with an A2 card base, navy cardstock, and some pattern paper from the Sincerely Yours paperpack, we're going to be using that third embossed little stripe, and with a sentiment that says "Have a lovely day," that's it. That's our next project that's done. So don't leave away those leftovers. Now, for our next card, I'm going to show you another new technique that I was talking previously is about solid stamping and layering stamping. Now, what's the difference between those two terms? Well, solid stamping is when you take an image and you put some ink on it, and then you have a fully crisp image. This is why the hybrid inks from LDRS Creative are so great, because you get a crisp stamped image every time. But what about layering? Well, layering is what I'm showing you with the new set that we have in this release. So first you had that one layer with that blue shape, and now we're going to be adding a second layer by making sure that the flowers are adjusted at the same contour silhouette, shall we say, but I'm stamping over that blue image with a purple layer, and then I'm using a third layer with a darker color. So we're building inks, we're literally layering, and we're covering the entire panel with those flowers to create, it's kind of if we have our own personalized, customized background pattern paper, but we did it with our hybrid inks, and that is what completes the card, because once you have it, no matter how many flowers you decided to have, well, all you need is a sentiment, and that's it. You have a beautiful, beautiful project for everyday's need. And also, using from the same sentiment set that has all those beautiful flowers, you have that super cute butterfly that I really wanted to incorporate in my project. So I decided to stamp it 3 times, but on Raven hybrid ink, so no need to color. And I'm going to fussy cut it, so with sharp scissors, and then place them diagonally. So another time to show you how layering works, because I may have been quick about it in the previous project. We're going to, again, using a stamping platform, we're going to create an entire flower. So first we're taking a very light green ink from the line and I'm stamping the stem and some leaves. Now you can play around, create your flower in a shape or not. It's totally up to you. And you can also, by using that same color, you can stamp over if you prefer to have a darker image, or if you want the leaves to be in a dimensional aspect. So I'm creating that stem and 3 leaves so far, and I'm going to be adding the second layer to my leaves. So we're going to choose a darker color of ink, so a darker green, and with that second layer of stamps, we're going to place them at the same exact spot, but you may notice that it's not going to cover the entire thing, because it's like we're building from the base and we're detailing with every layer of ink. So it's a gorgeous process. If sometimes you're tired of coloring, just go along and do some solid and layering stamping. It's totally awesome. It's like you get that project done in no time, and plus you're using your inks for something else than simply outlining an image and then creating something with your favorite coloring mediums. So now that we have our stamp and our leaves, I'm going to be stamping the base of my flower. So I'm using a very cute peach color. It's just gorgeous, and the goal here is to always start with light inks, so light colors, to build up to a darker one so that the outline is going to be detailed as much as we can. So this is why it's important when you buy inks to always have different tones, so like a light tone, a mid-tone, and a darker tone. And this is what's cool at LDRS Creative, because if you get that bundle of inks, well, you have them all, right? So another thing that you're going to see me doing on screen is sometimes I may not be sure where to place my outline of image. Well, don't worry, because if you end up like me, having the head of the flower upside down, nobody's going to notice. Only you know that it's supposed to be upwards. Plus, I'm known to make mistakes with products, and nobody ever notices unless I tell them. So now that our beautiful flower is totally created, I'm going to be using an A2 craft card base mat with a navy cardstock, some pattern paper from the sincerely used pad that we have, and then I'm simply going to be adding that flower on top of it, and I'm going to be also using some sentiments to complete our project. But you may notice that in that beautiful stamp set, there are some tiny dots included, and those tiny dots are the perfect touch to complete something that is not necessarily commercially made, meaning that you decide where you place them, and it has that beautiful, nice finish to it. So I really like that they come in 3, and so you can layer them, you can slightly stamp them apart, and they're quite cute. Here I did a few of them, a few dots with 2 colors, and they turned out beautiful. Now, here's another technique using your stamp set. You know those acrylic stamp sets, so they look kind of plasticky, right? So, but they're not plastic. They're made from very great quality stamp product. And what's cool with this is that when you use a stamping platform or an acrylic block, you can bend them to have a different shape, meaning that you don't necessarily have to have them lined up unless you're a very good perfectionist and you want them to the dot. But I like to get more out of my stamp set. So here what I'm showing you is that with those 2 sentiments, by simply bending the corners upwards or downwards, then you can have an oval shape, plus you have some more movement in your card, and it's quite cute. So that's another tip that I can share with you. Now, moving on to our I think that we're close to our last projects. Yep. So we're going to be using those dies because we haven't been using them too much, right? And I know you want to see how to use them. Well, right now I'm using the Eyelet lace rectangle die set. And by die cutting directly through the sincerely used paper pack, I'm showing you that you can create a window out of your dies, or you can simply use the tag or the rectangle as is. So they're quite fun because then once you have that frame that is created with the window and that larger eyelet square, rectangle, I'm sorry, then you can create those dimensional things that you can have like a shaker card. You can have so many things done with that. So I'm building a little tag here. It's called Love You Bunches, and I'm stamping the butterfly with different inks so that it has more dimension into it instead of being one layer of ink. And I'm going to simply be adding my frame on top of another pattern paper from the Sincerely Used pack. I'm going to add a second tag done with the same die, and that's it. Super easy, quick. You don't have to worry about anything. Now, moving on to our last project. This one is cool because it's showing you how the Build-A-Card series is made to be super easy for you. So I'm showing you that the largest part of that Build-A-Card die has those two little lines at the top. Now, because I want mine to be very, very strong, I'm going to tape it down to a piece of cardstock that is already folded in two, and I'm going to secure it in place with some tape. So I'm using blue painter's tape, and then I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. So now, once that is done, because we placed it directly on the folded part of my cardstock, you see that the fold is still there, but you have a beautiful shape for your Build-A-Card. Now, I could have let a little bit more space at the top, and this is necessarily something that I'm going to show you in future videos, but for now, I'm completely satisfied with it. So I went along with my second largest piece of that Build-A-Card set, and I die cut a piece of white paper into that beautiful shape. And now I'm going to stamp the hanging out image from Polka Doodle with Raven Hybrid ink directly onto it. And this is going to be our main focus for the card because this image is so detailed, but again, so easy to color that I really wanted the focus to be the image. Now, I know we've been coloring quite a bit in this video, and I'm going to show you quickly how this image may seem complicated, but it is not. I'm simply adding a little bit of color here and there with some watercolor marker. I'm adding water all over the place, and then my image is done. Honestly, at first I was a bit scared by the image, but after doing it, I'm in love with it because it's quite easy. I beg you, give it a try. So now that the coloring will be soon over and that we're going to have those beautiful little touch, then we will be done with our 10-in-1 cards, right? Because we're simply going to take that larger frame, we're going to add the image, and then we're going to also use a tree that was die cut, and that is it. So I hope you're happy and shop that bundle.